Hi, welcome to Lumos Talks, the podcast on weekly growth marketing, brought to you from the people in the field doing the actual work. I'm Seb Weber, I'm the ECD of Blind Spot. Here are my beautiful colleagues. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Matej. I do growth stuff. I put Andrew a lot of times on a billboard. He keeps reminding me every birthday. It was a fun gift to do. I've never put myself on a billboard, though. I just realized this now. I've only put other people. And yeah.
Well, now we should put your face on a billboard, right? And I'm Bogdan, co-founder and CEO of Blind Spot with Matej. We built this stuff because people wouldn't let us advertise on billboards with $500. And now we're going to jump into a lot of $1 million this year with a lot of people that wanted to be on billboards. So yeah, that's the intro about Blind Spot.
And our guest today is a very good friend of our company, a partner of Lumos House. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think I'm technically also like an investor. I think.
Yeah, that too.
Or advisor, investor.
You are also an investor. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, good to be here. Good to see you guys. Down to chat growth marketing. I didn't know it was going to be about growth marketing, but I'm warmed up because I hosted a dinner last night for growth marketers. So I got a lot of sauce to share, and I'm pumped for this.
Well, I think before we go into that, I think it's really important for you to do a little setup about you have an amazing story. You've achieved a lot. What you're building is incredible. Give us a little rundown of what you've done, and then we'll jump into the juicy shit.
Yeah. So I spent most of my life in China. I spent about 18 years in different parts of China. And I'd always wanted to move to New York City. That was like really, pretty much my life goal. In 2020, I moved to New York, and I moved to New York to work in tech. And I didn't know anybody at the time. And if you remember New York City at the time, the city was empty. There's this mass exodus of people who had fled the city because of COVID. It was a ghost town. And so I didn't know anyone. I didn't have anyone to hang out with. And so I took it to myself to start posting content online and convincing people to come to my events, which is how I think I met Matej, or like through an extension of that is where I met Matej and got connected with Blind Spot. For some reason, entrepreneurs loved going to my events for some reason. And so I started hosting these meetups for founders. And over the last 6 years now, I've hosted over 300 events for about 50,000 people, most of whom are founders or builders or entrepreneurs. And about 2.5 years ago, I quit my full-time job to do it full-time. So now I run Fibe, which is an events and a media company. We host events for founders. We have a conference business. We do dinners and anything to do with community. And then also an angel investor in 25 companies, and a creator on LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram.
I have a question. Since you mentioned those initial days going to Twitter and when you met Matej, do you sometimes miss those brownstone stairs kind of meetups with 3-5 people now that you're hosting these massive events and celebrity and important people attending?
Like New York at the time was really special. It was very special to have like the city to yourself. And like I think when I met Matej on a stoop from an event that I'd found out about on Twitter, it just felt like there's a very small and special group of people that were building the future or trying to build the future that had the courage to stay in New York at the time. So that was very special, and nothing will ever replace that. But now it's I think the events have sort of scaled beyond me and grown beyond me, and it's less, I had started. Who's that guy? Hey, right here. I had started, and I think this is how most entrepreneurs start, which is you build something in service of yourself to solve a problem that you have at the time. And now it's gone beyond that, and it's in service of other people. And so even with the 100 events I host a year, I don't go to most of those. Those are more so for the community and for the founders to meet each other.
I think that says a huge amount about you as well. And the events that we've been to together and the events that I've attended, they're always so well curated and crafted. And it's kind of fascinating that you didn't grow up in New York and yet you've like infiltrated this, you know where all the great places are to go. Your events are really at like the kind of cutting edge, newest spots. It's just, I think it's a big testament to who you are, dude. I think it's really great.
I appreciate it. Appreciate
That's
it, man. It's a very kind thing to say.
And also, I love the fact that you don't go to most of the events anymore, like, which is proof that you don't need to be an extrovert to, build an event business. So, in general, you don't need to be. Sometimes you don't even need to code in order to build, a software agency or whatever. So that's kind of,
Not now.
I love that part because, yeah, not anymore for sure. Yeah, especially now, you don't need to code in order to build any software company, not even an agency.
Yeah, it's crazy. People redefining the playbook of what it's like to like do things. Like, you don't need to go on camera to create content. You don't need a front end product to have a software company. I just discovered the idea of headless software. No UI. You don't need UI. It's just like MCP or API. Yeah, you don't need to you don't need to be personable to be an events host. You don't even need to know how to speak English, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, just people like rebuilding the playbook on what it means to do certain things.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, most startups don't have a product even when they raise money, so that part isn't necessarily new, but the rest is. I'll agree to that. What's the? You said you don't go to your events that much anymore, but in terms of what was the coolest, most recent event that you went to? Not necessarily yours, but like in general, any type of event that you really enjoyed.
Recently, recently it's been less cool and less fun. It's more of like we've systemized it to a point where it just works really well. But every event is exactly the same. Maybe not to the attendees, but to us. Like every event is the exact same because we've just operationalized it so well. We did this really cool event last night for 12 growth marketers where everyone showed up. And and I'd actually put a lot of thought into this event. And so the idea behind this event is I wanted to get the best heads of growth in New York City together to demo AI workflows that everyone was using. And so think of it as like 3-hour dinner, a circle table, and the circle was on purpose. So everyone had an equitable voice. And then a TV. I had a big TV where everyone would take 3 minutes to demo an agentic workflow, which I've never done anything like that before. And like, as you can imagine, you have to stay on script. You have to run it. You have to run a really tight ship, make sure people don't go over, talk too much, etc. But everyone ended up doing their demo. And we had like the head of growth from like Runway, head of growth from like Anti-Metal there. And it was pretty wild to see what people were building. And it's actually, this is on a tangent, but it's changed the way I think about just careers in terms of how people work. It's like the way people work has completely changed with this AI stuff. But yeah, that was a really cool event, and everyone stayed for hours, and it was cool.
Yeah, you really don't have to be good at anything anymore. The idea that you have to have a certain amount of like specialized knowledge is completely getting leveled. I think that's what makes the growth section of it so interesting right now. Is you just need to know enough, in my opinion.
I'm gonna be the contrarian one here, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. Like, I think you should be good at something. I'm one of those old school guys that's like, you should know how to do something,
But you just need to have an interest and an understanding of knowing what you want to know more about, and the entry level into like learning about that has just been flattened, in my opinion. You can just you can experiment more.
Entry level going flat is a great thing. But also, we do need to talk about the elephants in the room that this creates average professionals at best. And we've gone through that internally with some of the professionals that have been through our company throughout the years. And the average level is going low, it's going lower and lower, lower and lower. And having all these tools, awesome. But I think having good people to use those tools, that's becoming a rarity.
Yeah, I guess every carpenter has a chisel, right? But it depends how good you are using that chisel. God, that was such a good hot take.
There's this idea that's I don't know if it's just like all over TikTok, but also smart people I know are talking about it. But the idea of a K-shaped labor market, K-shaped economy, which is what AI is inevitably going to do, is people in the upper like 10% of like agency and access and possibly wealth are just going to thrive with AI. And then everybody else is honestly going to get left behind. Like everyone in the room last night demoed this crazy ass agentic workflow, which I'm like in previous years would have taken months to build. Maybe even like years, and you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital required. And now they can just do it. Like they just did it. And people who are not in Silicon Valley or connected to Silicon Valley or not in rooms like this and rooms like the one we were in last night have no clue what's going on. It's kind of nuts. Like this guy has no clue. This guy does not know.
I think he's
what's going
excited
on.
about AI. Jasper's excited about AI. I can tell. He has a look in his eye.
on a very practical level as well, what I find interesting about that is in just a real world scenario right now, and whether this is a kind of a good thing to share or a bad thing, I don't know. But I'm sending out a lot of contracts at the moment, not here, but I'm sending out a lot of contracts, and I am dealing with really big attorneys on the other end of these emails, and I am using Claude, which is like the most baseline entry level, to rework red lines. And they have no idea that I don't have a legal team on the other side of this. And I found that kind of fascinating, where I'm dealing with these traditional gatekeepers that are used to certain things, and they just think I'm talking to my legal team. I can't afford a legal team. And by the way, the contracts are going through at the average pace and the right pace that they should be, and things are getting closed. And that's kind of really interesting to me, is that like those tools are now available depending on how you use them.
That's actually a story that I've heard quite often over the last couple of months with people using Claude and OpenAI. They usually shift between models, but for the legal part. And honestly, I do check. Sorry, legal team. I do check your work with Claude and see what Claude thinks about it. And sometimes with deep research, I think that's an amazing use case for AI.
I think like to Andrew's point, like I haven't seen anyone who I consider kind of mediocre at their work be excited about AI. Usually the people who are good at their job are really excited about, AI and the way they can automate stuff. And people who are kind of 9-to-5ers and they don't want to really stand out, they're usually horrified because they realize, hey, it's probably going to be a threat to them, but it's going to be a tool to people who want to do a lot of stuff. And, I've seen you, Andrew, and what you do on social media, and I realize you have more time for that stuff because you probably automate a lot of your, day to day. So you're not like, oh no, people won't, AI will take over this part of my job. You're like, oh, this is amazing. It'll take over the parts that I hate so I can do more of the stuff that I should have done, but I never had the time to do.
Mark Andreessen posed this question on a podcast he was on, and he asked the group, are you guys working more or less because of AI? And almost everyone in the room was like, more. Everyone's doing more, way more. The work has expanded. It's kind of, I'm working way more, but I'm just doing more stuff.
Yeah, and just to add, Mark Andreessen, who recently retweeted you, right? That was the whole phrase you were looking for. How did that feel, by the way? That was cool.
To be honest, I didn't think twice. Someone nudged me about it because you go on his feed and he follows like 20,000 people and he retweets everyone. So I was like, all right.
Yeah. But so yeah, everyone I know works more because of AI. I agree to what you're saying. I think that's the reality of it, because there's no off button to it. And I always feel like, I have more ideas than ever. I'm trying to, start most of them and hopefully see some light of day. But yeah.
So as a non-expert, do you guys think our brains are being rewired and there's more types of neurons firing because of it?
I feel I'm developing ADHD if I didn't have it already. So
I think
I
you
don't know
probably
about the
already have
guys.
it.
Maybe.
I think now would be a good opportunity to talk about Lumos House and why you guys set that up.
Well, you know how we started, right? Because we wanted to sponsor South by, and South by, the package was like 100K, and we were like, fuck that shit. And then we got together with Andrew, and it's like, let's just do our own thing next to South by and have people show up and chill.
It was your first year of Five, right? I mean, it was called Andrew's Events back then. We were like
Andrew's
one of
Mixers.
Andrew's
Andrew's
Mixers.
Mixers. Sorry, Andrew's Mixers. My bad. It was your first year, Andrew, right? When we started doing Lumos House, I think.
I think it was, our first year of business. I remember you texting me and you're like, Bogdan wants to talk to you about something. We were in Miami and then Bogdan came to Citizen M. We sat down in the lobby and he's like, I have this big vision for like, I want to rent out a bunch of mansions. And I was like, oh shit, I've never done that before. But I think we could do it. And then that was it. And I think our first one was March the next year, March 2024. Or 25. And that's Lumos House. Well, first of all, Lumos, every time we do the house stuff is just so stressful. I think when you just do 3 back-to-back days and when you have high expectations for each day and you have programming during the day and then you have and then you're doing the production yourself, it's just like a ton of like stress. But Miami was like on a different level. Like that was wild. That was what a good story.
So I think let me try and see if I remember it correctly. So Miami was our second house, right? We did Austin first, which was great. First Lumos House experience, and then we flew to Miami, and that was our second house. And we essentially got scammed by the what was he? Not a realtor. He was
convicted felon.
So a non-convicted felon, actually, but soon to be an aspiring convicted fellow, who essentially just double booked us in a house because that's what happens. And he initially sold us one house or rented us one house. When we got there, he said, "Oh, that house isn't available anymore, or has some roofing issues, or whatever." He switched us to a second house, in which we organized Lumos House for like 2 or 3 days. And in the last day, when we were supposed to have the last day of the house and the event, he came and said, "Oh, I need to move you guys to a shittier house."
No.
No? Okay.
He came, I have a better offer for you guys.
Right.
He went to Jacob and Andrew that he's got this amazing mansion and he wants to upgrade us. And that happened the night before because the morning of the shit show, Andrew and Jacob and Eitan woke up with some frat boys that were doing a stag party or something. Like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? Like, we own the house? No, we own the house?
And after, right, so they came, the stag party said, "We have the house rented," and we called the guy. We weren't able to figure it out, so he moved us in this super luxurious mansion, which was like 3 or 4 times bigger than what we had.
It was an Escobar house.
It was a Pablo Escobar house, and we had to move everything on the spot. But he forgot to mention that the guy he rented that house from did not agree to having an event happening there.
Yeah, he agreed to having 4 people playing poker.
Yeah, so he pitched it to the guy as, "Oh, it's just me and 2 friends who are from Eastern Europe, and they don't really speak English, so I want to host them here," or something like that. And we came there ready to host the event and everything. And because we were moving so much stuff, right, Andrew?
I think it was the chefs. The chefs.
Oh, the chefs. No, right. So we had the chefs who started preparing food, and the smoke alarm went off, and the guy came, the owner of the house, who was this kind of Hollywood producer. So we had, he came and he went like, "What the fuck is this? I never agreed to this type of event." And we had to.
The good part is just starting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened. Eventually, we switched house to a friend of yours, Andrew, right? Who basically let us do the event there, or overnight.
And
On the
guess
same
who
day.
Andrew showed up to the event with?
And we brought the guy who kicked us out to the event because he said, yeah, you can't host the event at my house, but the event sounds amazing. I want to go, but not at
And
my
he
house.
had so much freaking fun.
He
He
came to
drove
the
us there.
event. Yeah,
He
he
drove us to the
there.
event.
Yeah. And he stayed until I think he was the last one to go. Like he had the time of his life. He said, amazing. Never at my house, but amazing. I love this. And that was Miami in a nutshell. Yeah.
You guys didn't go to the recent Miami event, right? Did you go? Possible?
Bogdan
went.
Like, yeah.
You went?
Well,
Oh.
so I went, but I actually went to Soho House, which is right next door. And I don't know what happened with Possible this year, but like everybody from Possible was at Soho House. So it was almost impossible to have a meeting there because it was so packed.
Yeah, well,
But it was
Miami.
good. There were a lot of cool people in town.
It's cool.
You're a big fan of Miami, Andrew. I can tell.
We need to do a Miami V2, guys. We need to do a Miami V2. We need to wash the history of Miami.
What was the weirdest place actually? So, in terms of Miami, was weird as the experience overall. But I'm curious in terms of events because you've done them in a lot of cities, right? Which one was the, I don't know, weirdest or the most different?
You know what? Like, we haven't really had any bad experiences, but I will say San Francisco has changed so much in the last 4 years. Like, I remember doing an event there with Cliff 3-4 years ago, and like everyone there was like, just like, man, like for lack of a better word, like so autistic, like full on tiz, and it was impossible. And I just found out I have a little bit of autism. Nicole made me take a quiz. I guess everyone in this room
We all
has a
do.
bit of autism.
Yeah, we all do.
But these guys were like way beyond, like, and I was like just fucking shocked because I'd never been to Autism Central before. And I threw a party and there were people like fucking rolling out their laptops and pitching people at a nightclub. And then
Wow.
and I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna come back here. This is it's just like not a fun place to be. But I went back a few months ago, and I won't say the autism is gone, but it's so much more fun now. And I don't know, there's more like non-tech stuff, and there's and I think like the homelessness problem has gone better, and all these startups that I knew 4 years ago have now grown up into larger companies and have offices and have like, are impacting the culture there. Like there's this, I went to this thing called the Corgi Cafe, which is like this 24/7 cafe where everyone is just like vibe coding out of. Yeah, so I'd front like San Francisco was like the weirdest place, but it's also changed a lot.
Do you think it's because there's more kind of non-deep tech people coming into San Francisco now since, coding isn't the most that it used to be? Of course, it still matters, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot, I'm seeing more and more kind of, growth marketing people who are building their own products because they can, which they couldn't do before. They were great salespeople, they were great at marketing, but they always needed a technical co-founder to do anything.
I think it all comes down to one thing, which is the abundance of capital. There is so much more money there, or like deployed capital that compared to 4 years ago. 4 years ago was still like in the ZERP era, but like all this money has been like, been wired from the VC. So all these startups are run by these young, early 20-year-olds who are recklessly, or depending how you see it, they're spending money on everything. And like that money goes into, for most part, like lifestyle stuff because they're trying to capture the everyday consumer in San Francisco. So it's like cafes and like events and food and beverage and hospitality and billboards, like billboards everywhere, which is which is cool. It makes the city more colorful. But I think it really just comes down to that. I was at this dinner last night where everyone was talking about their highest performing channel for marketing, and for most of them it's events and actually a lot of out of home stuff, because like, nobody's going to respond to this AI SDR that hits you up and calls you, like starts the sentence with like mate, comma, like I can help you improve your. Nobody is going to respond to that. But like an event, like someone invites you to a nice dinner, or like you see something on the street, like I see Vibe.co right there, and I literally wake up and I see this massive billboard. Like you can't escape that stuff, and like some might even say you enjoy like seeing it as art. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. I also think kind of this direct response type marketing, everything that is kind of email or outbound is going to get wrecked over the next few years, because unless you're receiving a message from someone you know, like you can tell they're automations because they have a sequence and everything. Do you even use LinkedIn messaging anymore, by the way? Like except if you receive a message from someone you know, I guess.
I probably get pitched less than you do, like over the internet, because we're not like I think what most of these guys are trying to sell to is like the venture-backed tech companies,
Yeah.
and or CMOs, and like we're just like an events company, so we actually get very little sales outbound, very little.
Right.
I get a lot of like pitches from founders raising money, but most of them are still done by human. But I think for my friends who run companies, oh my god, they get like spammed. Like for those who run tech companies, they're just getting destroyed.
So what's next after events? Like, okay, events are killing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm really excited for real life stuff, especially in this age of automation and nothing being real anymore. But what's the next golden nugget after events, or what do you think will be the next big thing?
I've been thinking about that for the last 2 years, and I think what's really difficult is when you have something that's going well and it's doing good, but it's not amazing. And the definition of amazing has changed in the last few years, given all this AI stuff, which creates more of a tension between what I want to be and what I'm doing now. And I've kind of struggled with it, because I'm like, I definitely don't want to do events my whole life. And I have, there are I have all these opportunities in front of me. Like people have offered me money to like build something in tech, and were like offered me money to raise a fund. But none of that is like that interesting to me. And to be honest, I told myself a few months ago, I was like, why do I need to figure out what's next? Why don't I just keep hosting events and making TikToks? Because honestly, this is like the most fulfilled I've ever been, the most fun I've ever had, and like funny enough, like the most money I've ever made in my career. So why try to leave this behind, even though an event planner might be a low status job or whatever. And it's not something I think about too much, but I do think about the opportunity cost of doing events when everyone is building an AI. So I don't know what's next. One of my mentors told me to wait for the fat pitch. Like wait for you're playing baseball, like wait for the good pitch before you take a big swing. And I'm like, I haven't seen a good pitch yet, so just kind of keep doing events until I get fired by all my clients.
I think that's amazing, honestly. Like, given I see this kind of shiny object syndrome happening right now, because it's so easy to think you can build the next big thing, because it's easier than ever for sure, but that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Okay, it's maybe 20% easier than it was before. So how did you kind of ground yourself with that? Did you try something and you realized it didn't make you happy and then went back to events, or did you have another approach to it?
Well, first of all, beginning of this year, I freed up a bunch of my time. And then I was like, I'm just going to pursue, like, this is going to be my year of side quests and pursuing different things. And so the first thing I tried was TikTok. And then I grew my TikTok very quickly from like 0 to like 50K, and then now it's at 70K. But I also haven't posted in the last few weeks because I got bored. But I did that and I hacked it with Claude Code. But then I started getting bored of it. So that was my first side quest. I've honestly, dude, I did a job interview the other week. I did this, and I would like, I'm not, it's not a real option. Like I probably wouldn't take a job anywhere. But this job was so enticing. And basically it's like a teacher role. Like I won't share too much, but it's, you're basically, teaching teenagers 14 to 18 how to build a business and get to $1 million in profit in 4 years. And if they don't, they get, their tuition back. And by the way, tuition is $150,000 a year. So a very expensive private school for teenagers where all they do is learn how to build businesses. And they want teachers to come in who are basically entrepreneurs and residents to like teach the kids along with the rest of the curriculum. And I was like, man, this would be so fun. But I also feel like any move you make right now for any of us is like comes at a huge opportunity cost. And I was like thinking about like what it would be like to spend 100% of my time on one thing. And it feels very scary because even I think maybe most of the guys in this video call are not 100% in one thing, or maybe Bogdan and Seb are, maybe, I don't know. Because Matej, you're kind of like multi-hyphenate portfolio. You have a few things going on, I think, right? But it's scary
It's
to do
probably
one
my
thing.
ADHD. That's why it's not. It's the ADHD, honestly, and I probably same as you. I realized at some point for my kind of peace of mind or just for my soul, I want to do some side quests at some point, because the reality is, as exciting as one thing is, like you talked about events, right? At some point, you don't enjoy the events anymore because they all look the same to you. Although the people who go to your events are really, really excited. I think that's what happened to me at some point, and I was like, I need some newness in my life. But I really admire the fact that people can stick to one thing and just take it all the way.
Hey guys, I have a 2.5-year-old side quest and
It's true.
a second side quest starting at the end of July. So that's good enough.
Well, Andrew, I know you got your light on time, so I think this is probably a good place to start wrapping.
Let's give it a minute and think about what we can do in terms of flash questions. All right.
I think maybe what it seems like most people are curious about, at least in my audience, is like how should we optimize our careers for AI? That's one. I think like how you can stand out as a founder when building products are commoditized is a good one. And then maybe what I'm hearing from like the fringes of Silicon Valley from talking to a bunch of founders and CEOs is maybe a good one.
I think it does. Actually, the career one I think is really good. And I noticed like, how do you stand out when you apply to a job, especially now when probably 90% of application reviews are automated, right? LinkedIn has it baked in, and there's a ton of other tools. So how do you actually stand up when you want to apply and grow your career somehow?
The bar is so high now for getting a top 10% job. And the reason it's so high is because at these top companies where top talent is working, everyone is, and it all comes back to AI, but all these people are so well versed with AI where they are vibe coding dashboards, workflows. They've replaced entire teams. And so now their expectation for anyone who's going to join an organization is that they must meet that bar or raise that bar. And oftentimes that means AI. And so what these interviews might look like, and I've seen a bunch of them at the early stage, is like when you interview, it's not only behavioral questions, like tell me about blah, blah, or situational questions, tell me about how you'd solve this problem. But it's questions that involve how you use your agents and your AI workflows, which is like mind-blowing and so bizarre. You're expected to not only go into the interview with like your bank of stories, but also your army of like agents and your workflows, and maybe even like demo some stuff. So that's like number one. Like for the top 10%, whatever it is, you have to be ready to work like the top 10%, which is like with AI. And then the second thing is I think I saw a stat somewhere that the job applications on LinkedIn are up 100% year over year. So they've effectively doubled. And so how do you stand out? And it's, again, in the world where you can build anything, you have to build something to show the hiring manager, to show the CEO. A friend of mine just landed a job at a company that was backed by Kozla Ventures, very early stage. And he brought to his first interview his own version of the product, of their product. He had cloned their product and built his own version of what he thought it should be. Obviously, it's easier for some. It's very hard to clone what you guys are building. But imagine someone came and built Blind Spot V2, and it blew the CEO away and hired him within the week. And it's like things like that where it's like permissionless ways to just solve problems and like show people how how good you are instead of just telling them through stories.
Well, and the fact that you show that you put in the effort, right? Because everything that you've said means that you're kind of going the extra mile and you're trying a bit more than your peers.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even that much more effort. It's like in 5 minutes you can build something amazing. So it's crazy that this is the world we live in. It's kind of dystopian, and it's kind of lame that you have to bring AI to your job interview, but that's where we're at, I think. All you have to do is you have to have the empathy to put yourself in the shoes of a hiring manager and think from their perspective, what would put them in awe? What would make them feel so inspired to like hire you on the spot? And like, it's not that hard. So I don't understand how, especially with these AI tools, how people stay unemployed for so long. Again, that's the hot take you can include, but I truly feel that way.
Thanks for joining us today, dude.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Andrew.